I've been writing for about 17 years since 2008, and this book is a collection of short stories. David Walliams sold 50 million children's books and became one of Britain's most loved entertainers. Then one leaked conversation changed everything. What audiences heard in 2022 shocked the nation and ended his 10 years on Britain's Got Talent. But those rude comments were nothing compared to what he'd been hiding since childhood. Multiple suicide attempts, family secrets, and a pain that started when he was barely old enough to understand it. The real story of David Walliams isn't about fame or scandal. It's about a man who spent his entire life fighting to survive his own mind. David Walliams was born on August 20, 1971 in Merton, London. His father, Peter, worked for London Transport and made about $8,000 a year. His mother, Kathleen, was a hospital lab worker making $5,200 a year. They lived in a tiny two-bedroom house in Banstead, Surrey. It was only worth around $18,000 back then. From the outside, their life looked normal. But inside that house, 4-year-old David would lock himself in the bathroom for hours, talking in funny voices he heard on TV. His mom once said she found him having full conversations with imaginary people, each one with a different voice. What nobody knew then was that he was already dealing with sadness and worry, even as a child. When he was 7, David joined the Sea Scouts. He wanted to feel like one of the boys, but within 3 weeks, everything went wrong. Older boys started bullying him for sounding too fancy and acting dramatic. That summer, during a scout camp on Brownsea Island, things got truly terrifying. One night, David was found hanging by his neckerchief from a tree. The scout leader said it was an accident, but later David admitted he had tried to end his life. He didn't want to live anymore. The adults didn't tell the truth. His parents were told he had fallen. That moment marked the beginning of a lifelong battle inside his mind. He became one of the youngest known kids in the UK to attempt suicide while in the Scouts. By age 10, David had collected 47 comedy albums. He spent his entire $2 weekly allowance at charity shops buying them. He memorized every word of Monty Python and Rowan Atkinson routines. His mom once found him at 2 in the morning, performing an entire show to his mirror, dressed in her clothes. That same year, doctors gave him imipramine, a type of antidepressant rarely given to kids back then. He said he would wear headphones for 8 hours a day, just to drown out the dark thoughts. At school, his grades dropped fast. Within 6 months, he went from getting A's to D's. He was choosing laughter over everything else. In 1982, David joined Reigate Grammar School. But instead of feeling accepted, he was attacked almost immediately. Within the first term, he ended up in the hospital twice. Once for a broken nose, and once after being locked in a cupboard for hours. His classmates called him Coco, making fun of how he moved and talked. His weight dropped from 6 stone to just 4 stone 8 pounds in 1 year. His English teacher kept notes of how he'd show up with bruises, claiming he fell down the stairs. The worst moment came in 1984 when bullies forced him to do comedy acts in the school toilets, while they threw wet toilet paper at him. Still, in drama class, he got top marks. He once scored 98% for a one-man show he performed about loneliness. That same year, when he was 12, David tried to take his life again. After another awful incident with the Sea Scouts, where he was stripped and humiliated during a fake swimming test, he went home and tried to hang himself using his school tie. His mother found him unconscious. It was 7:43 p.m. when the ambulance arrived. He had been out cold for about 3 minutes. The hospital kept him under psychiatric watch for 72 hours. His doctor wrote that his thoughts were far more serious than what you'd expect for a child his age. David's parents finally pulled him out of the Scouts for good. He didn't talk about this suicide attempt publicly until 2008. At age 13, David joined the National Youth Theater. It should have been a big step forward, but instead, he felt even more alone. He was surrounded by other kids who loved acting. Yet, he felt like a complete outsider. He met Matt Lucas there, who would later become his creative partner. But even that early friendship didn't stop the sadness. David later said it felt like everyone else had friends except him. He just kept pretending to be happy, but inside, he was falling apart. When he was 16, David had to join the Actors' Equity Union. But someone else was already named David Walliams. So he opened the phone book, pointed at a random name, and chose Walliams. That simple moment would change his life. His father was upset. He felt like David was throwing away their family name. But for David, it was a way to escape. It was like becoming someone new. People at school didn't understand it either. It felt strange and sudden. But David said later that it wasn't about fame. It was about not wanting to be himself anymore. In 1989, David started studying drama at the University of Bristol. That winter, he had a breakdown. He went back home for Christmas and overdosed on pills in his childhood bedroom. His mother found him lying still. She rushed him to the hospital, crying the whole way. He survived, but barely. He later said that his mom's love saved him. The overdose made everything real for his parents. They finally saw how deep his pain went. While at Bristol, he joined a comedy group called David Icke and the Orphans of Jesus. Other members included future stars like Simon Pegg. On stage, David made people laugh. But off stage, he was falling apart. He said he felt like the loneliest person in the world. One time, he had to be hospitalized again. His classmates had no idea how bad things were. He learned to hide everything behind a smile. In 1991, his friendship with Simon Pegg grew stronger. Pegg later said that David seemed like an extrovert who was born to entertain. But in his private diary, David wrote about wanting to step in front of a train. The thought kept coming back. It wasn't just a passing idea. He imagined it in detail. He researched it. Even with friends around him, the pain didn't go away. In 1992, David made his solo comedy debut at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival with a show called Games Night. He was 21. The show got good reviews. But behind the scenes, he was barely holding it together. He had panic attacks every morning and lost 14 pounds from stress. He finished all 18 performances, but just barely. Audiences had no idea what he was going through. That show helped him get an agent, even though he was still silently suffering. By 1995, David reunited with Matt Lucas for a comedy show called Mash and Peas. They filmed it with just $8,000 per episode in a small warehouse. It ran for 9 episodes and made fun of old children's shows. One of their sketches was so controversial it got banned. Their parody, I'm Black and Dad's in the Klan, was considered too offensive. Still, the show became a cult hit and launched their careers. In 1999, they started another show called Rock Profile. They dressed up as pop stars and did fake interviews. But things behind the scenes were getting tense. David would disappear during filming without warning. Lucas had to improvise without him. They made fun of celebrities like Gary Barlow, but some stars weren't happy. Barlow's team even threatened to sue. Despite all that, the show became their biggest hit yet, with over 2 million viewers. During a special in 2001. In 2001, David appeared in the cult show, spaced as a wild character named Vulva. He played an androgynous artist who did strange performances. He spent hours in makeup for a role that only lasted 8 minutes. One scene ended with him getting punched in the face during an art show. The character was bizarre, but David poured real emotion into it. The experience was deeply personal for him. In 2002, He starred in a BBC film called Cruise of the Gods. He played a superfan obsessed with a fake sci-fi show. He went to real conventions to prepare for the role. In one scene, his character has a total breakdown. Critics said his performance was both funny and heartbreaking. His 2-minute monologue about being let down by childhood heroes became the emotional peak of the film. David Walliams didn't just become famous overnight. His journey started quietly in August 2000 when he and his friend Matt Lucas launched Little Britain. On BBC Radio 4, K came on late at 11 p.m., but people who heard it couldn't stop talking about it. They had met years earlier while doing comedy at university in Bristol. And now they were creating strange, wild characters like Vicky Pollard, Emily Howard, and Marjorie Dawes. The radio version only had 9 episodes, but it caused a stir. It wasn't just funny, it was shocking. It made people laugh and gasp because it talked about things most shows avoided. That tiny radio show became the first spark in what would grow into a $25 million comedy empire. 3 years later, in 2003, Little Britain moved to BBC Three. That's when everything exploded. The first TV episode pulled in 1.8 million viewers, a record for the channel. Walliams didn't hold back. He dressed up in wigs, makeup, full costumes, turning into wild, exaggerated characters. That made some viewers laugh and others completely uncomfortable. One of his most unforgettable was Emily Howard. A man pretending badly to be a woman in Victorian clothes, saying, "I'm a lady," in a high voice. By 2005, the show was airing on BBC One and pulling in 9.5 million viewers per episode. That meant almost 4 out of 10 people watching TV at that time were watching Little Britain. It made $3.5 million just from DVD sales. Walliams had become a comedy star. But not all attention was good. In 2004, he introduced a character named Harvey Pinch.